Good morning, everyone. It is September 11th. We will call the Wright County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody. Minutes from August 28th.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve minutes from last week.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Husum, second by Commissioner Potter. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Review and approval of agenda. Does anybody need to add anything to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion we approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Vetch. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they'd like to remove for further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the very extensive consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Husum. Any other discussions? All I have to say is we are scheduling a public hearing, so make sure you get those on your calendars, everybody, on October 9th. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Time agenda items. Bob Hevela.
Hey, good morning, Board. First item on the agenda is to approve a plat. This is the Horsewell Lake lot in Corinna and Clearwater Township. You should have the, I don't have it, but you must have the letter from Tom Kelly's office.
Correct.
So the Mylar's in the back, all the appropriate signatures and fees are paid, so.
This is just a regular
Yeah.
approval.
Just a regular plat. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the plat for Horsewell Lake lots in Corinna/Clearwater Township.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Vetch. Any other discussions? We just gonna let it go this easy? I just hate to see Bob just get off so easily.
Well, no, Mr. Chair, in all due respect, there was two different lawyers looked at it, and they both agreed, so that's a rarity in
Okay,
itself.
all right.
Yeah, it looks good to me.
Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Board, the second item on the agenda, I'm going to have Matt come up here, but here we gave away part of a ditch system under terms and conditions. Those conditions weren't met, so we're going to actually petition to take that part back over. But Matt's here to talk about our ditch in Monticello.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. County Ditch 33, just kind of east of Monticello there, we transferred portions of the outlet and two branches to the city of Monticello. It dealt with two outlet proceedings. The original one was for Carlisle Village, where $167,000 was put aside by the developers to upsize the outlet on County Ditch 33. And then a year after that, there was a outlet petition for the Hidden Falls Niagara Forest developments that never went through, but that essentially transferred those portions of the ditch to the city of Monticello. We're looking to take those back so we can do some work on the ditch system as well as get that original $167,000 for repairs and engineering.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Vetch.
Board members, this basically has a lot to do with the area that the city took over for Ditch 33, never got annexed into the city. Basically, repairs needing to be done in that area. City doesn't have the ability to charge the benefited rolls because it's not part of the city. That's what brings us here today to, I think this is kind of a precedent. I don't think we've ever taken a ditch back as a county.
And Mr. Chair, Commissioner Vetch, Matt, so this was originally to be plotted and to be developed, but it wasn't.
Yep.
And the, it was not
Downfall.
annexed into the city, correct?
Yep, because
Okay.
the downfall of the economy, so it never.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, and Commissioner Vetch, we had a discussion on this a little bit. These two plats were in an orderly annexation area, were going to be annexed in, but never happened because it failed. And so the city of Monticello would have a hard time spending city money on a township ditch. It kind of one of those catch-22 where they jumped the gun on doing this before it was actually annexed in and taken over. So it's one of those things, because back then in 2006, it was kind of the Wild West. Things was going pretty fast, and people were not tying up all the loose ends. Lawyers were happy as larks because they were billing like crazy. But no, this is just something that's got to be corrected from before. And it's those things that happen.
And Mr. Chair, Brian, as far as, we don't have to have any language about the collecting the 167,000 in the petition or anything. At what point do we want to make sure that that gets stated?
That's something we'll deal with as part of this, but I think the action item for the day is to set a public hearing date and times.
Okay.
Because there is a resolution listed in here, but we're not accepting the resolution today.
That's where my question kind of went for, because it wasn't mentioned at all in there, and I didn't know.
It's to reopen proceedings as a
Proceedings.
resolution.
Yeah.
The resolution was Monticello's.
Well, there's also this petition in here, and that's where my question was regarding the petition.
Or maybe this resolution is from the city of Monticello.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
resolution was from,
I wanted to make sure, that, Mr. Chair, the petition is something that the city is submitting, asking us to kind of
Okay.
reopen this matter.
oh, yeah, the resolution's right here, the
So,
draft, okay.
Again, I don't know if Matt had suggested dates, but that's what we'd be looking for.
Okay.
Public hearing date.
Do you have any suggested dates at all, Matt?
Yeah, we would need the 3-week notice for posting. So sometime, what's the one after October 9th?
The 16th, you thinking?
If that would work, or
Could you have it
maybe
Tuesday, the 16th?
Tuesday, 16th works.
That's a board meeting here at 9 a.m. anyway.
Yep.
So what we're thinking, 10:30 public hearing, 11 o'clock?
Are you doing it after the board meeting or as part of the board meeting?
Either or.
Can we do it as part of the board meeting? Brian? Can we do it as part of the board meeting?
We have done that in the past.
Okay.
What do you want to do, 10 a.m.?
No, let's do 9:30 if it's
Yeah,
part of the
9:30.
board meeting.
9:30 on October 16th. Mr. Chair, with that, I'll make a motion to set a public hearing for October 16th at 9:30 a.m. for the transferring of ditch authority for County Ditch 33 to Wright County.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewsome. Any other discussions?
The date again, Mark, was?
The
16th.
16th at 9:30 a.m. It's part of, it'll be part of our board meeting.
So you'll be here no matter what, Charlie, right?
That makes it simple.
Yeah, that makes it, rather than trying to find another day.
Yep.
Wow, we're flying along here.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. All righty. Committee minutes. Commissioner Potter, if you would do the building committees of 8/22.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. The building committee met on August 22nd. Members were Glidden, Burrell, Potter, Wilczek, with the others present, Kelly, Jans, Hawkins, Asselson, and Stevens. The first item we discussed was the compost and recycling center. Wilczek opened up discussion with the background of the site from that storm damage that we had. And if you recall, we got some money from the AMC, and we'd have gotten more money if we'd have rebuilt, but we chose not to because we weren't quite ready yet. So we just left that because we want to make sure we get the right building in there for what we're looking on. We do have a lot of concerns in that because it relate to most electrical, heating, ventilation, old tipping floor. You know, it was built for a little different purpose than what's sitting out there now. And Wilczek and Stevens did tour McLeod and Stearns hazardous household waste facilities earlier, and Wilczek also toured Olmsted County. After the meeting, they talked with the architect of Stearns County facility, and estimated facility with old tipping floor proofing would be 12,000 square feet, would cost $200 a square foot. I question whether it would be that much, but that's what they came up with. Wilczek was asking us to make a recommendation and how to move forward, how we want to proceed with this. And myself and Commissioner Delaney comment about the facility, though, there are issues with the current facility not being operational ideal. It wasn't always a way to facilitate new construction of facility at this time. We have other higher level issues on the table right now than that one. So it's, everything being equal, we got to take the highest and most important ones first and work our way down the line. But what they Stevens offered to pursue the removal of the old equipment, which we had a discussion on that because we'd had prices before taken it, and of course the steel prices aren't that great. One of the issues with that is when there's taken out the old hammer mills and old conveyors and old sorting things, they'll have to shut down the compost facility for a couple months because torches and everything going on there to cut it all out of there is not conducive to have people working at the same time. So it's just a matter of how we can work that in, and maybe we can do it in stages, downtime. So we'll do part of it, remove part of the equipment for just maybe 2 weeks, and then get back in there and do things in another week somewhere down the line, stage and get ready for the next one. It's up in the air how to do this. So what we're going to do is the recommendation was to develop a plan to remove the old equipment, continue to utilize the current facility, and bring the topic back to committee in the first quarter of 2019 and get an update because, if they come up with a plan, we'll figure out how to do it. And then we'll discuss long-term plans on that and try to come up with, we've had a couple sketch drawings of what we could put in there, but by the time we get to there, maybe we'll know more what we want to do. They have toured other facilities, which is nice, give us an idea of what works, what doesn't work, and what we want to do. And the next item up there for discussion was the LEC and the geothermal. And this is one time I'm really glad that Commissioner Dryden was in there because his understanding of geothermal, is far more extensive than mine is. And Wilczek provided an update of a small leak remains in the geothermal system at the LEC. Brown Intertech was unable to find the leak. And I think what was the conclusion that it was in a deep well. They figured out because if they couldn't find it, they just assumed it was in a deep well there. So there's been an effort to re-engage Brown for other leak detection proposal. How they're no longer in the geothermal systems business. So Al Wilczek located a company called Mineral Services Plus that we'll meet with and learn more about ideas and approaches for the detection. And it's a dirty shame that basically 1/3 of it shut off, Commissioner Dryden?
No, it's not that much, but it's
significant.
it's a substantial amount.
Yeah. So we ought to keep trying to find out where that leak is and try to fix it if possible. So learn more about ideas and approaches for detection and recommend about other groups that have utilized them with success. So there's still more research to be done on that. The recommendation was to meet with Mineral Services Plus and bring the results of the meeting back to the building committee for further discussion. And the third item that we talked about was bond proceeds from the highway building. At one point in time, there was bond proceeds left over from that, but they've since learned that we'd used them on other areas. Was it debt protection, levy reduction? It was some. But anyway, I'd had Virgil Hawkins put together some things at the highway building, which are, after you build it, then you find things that maybe aren't quite there or didn't get done during the original thing. And Virgil gave me a list of items that were either missed or yet to be completed or maybe should be changed during the, after the fact. List included a perimeter fence that was only about 3/4 done. It's not done all the way. So and part of it was this, some of the construction was still going on when they moved in, so the fence just got done to a certain point, never picked up again. It's not, like I say, it's not the end of the world if it doesn't go in, but it should be finished off at some point in time. And to complete the partial existing enclosure is about $16,500. And then the other one was the building dedication plaque in the entry, which we had quotes before that was like $1,400 and Wilczek said it's about $725. So it's a little less than the other one is the installation of electronic screen in the lobby to highlight projects in the news from Highway Department. That was estimated $1,500. And the replacement of carpeting and maintenance shop offices with a more durable washable material. For those that don't know, In some parts, we put supposedly a very sturdy wear carpet in, like Brian Jan's office has just used his for one, and it just didn't hold up like we thought it was going to. I mean,
Like we were told it was gonna
Right.
be a whole.
Right, well, it's shame on us for that one, but that, it didn't hold up, with that one, with the, change that out for a more durable material, and about $8,000 offered, but we're gonna keep track on that and keep cleaning it, and at some point in time down the road, we'll have to fix that, or replace that, but it was offered by Kelly. We didn't believe the accounts for, that there were any funds available from the project, would verify with the auditor treasurer officer, which he did. And in discussion, it was determined that Hawkins will pay for the screen in the highway, from the highway budget, which he says he has. Wilczek will go ahead with the plaque installation and wait for the carpet until it's very bad condition replaced. And the fence will be waiting until the Justice Center project is complete, as to install the new fence to finish Great Concerns, because one of the areas is between the highway building and the Justice Center. That's one stretch of it that's not done, and that it makes sense to wait until the Justice Center done grading and then finish that fence off there. The recommendation was Kelly to investigate remaining funds available, but proceed with others as noted above. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendations.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Betts. Commissioner Houston?
Chair, just a note that we need to put the commissioners in the correct district.
Oh, yeah, we did bring that.
Yeah, okay, it was brought up, okay.
Yeah, that was brought up, that was kind of, well.
So we did confirm that there is no funds left in the highway building,
In the bond proceeds.
In the bond proceeds,
so
correct.
we did use the rest of that for debt service then?
For debt service and I think something else. We didn't need to do that strategic move of all those unused fund balances. One thing we could use, I think is the 100.
Well, right now they've got some of their, a few of the things already in their budget, so. When, like Commissioner Potter said, there's no reason to deal with the fence until after final grading is
Right,
done.
yeah, and I think, moving into a different floor covering is smart. Just in general, any high-traffic areas, I'm not a real big fan of carpet anyway, but, yeah, I think like in the break room, what do they call that, sort of that polished?
Yeah, and that's what they're looking at
Yeah,
doing.
I think that's just a really a nice
Do something like
floor.
that.
It's heavy-duty, it's, durable, and,
Yeah, well, we were told this carpet was gonna handle this particular traffic, and
Yeah, let's say
they
shady.
can't even get it clean.
no, I know, and that's the challenge with carpet, where there's a lot of people and,
Especially greasy shoes.
yeah,
Yeah.
greasy shoes, yep.
So it's like say, it's just one of those things, it's a learning experience, so.
Yep. All right, any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Betts, Committee of the Whole, 823.
All right, on August 23rd, Wright County Board met. I'm not going to list all the names there. It looks like we have quite a great attendance. Two items were talked about. First item was fairground paving. The discussion went from a conversation back in 2017 that was brought up before the board regarding paving substantial roads within the Wright County Fairgrounds. Coming back, there was a bid proposed back of $153,055.85. The discussion was whether the county had the funds or the interest in paving the county fairgrounds at this time. There was a discussion back and forth. It wasn't a budgeted item for 2018, so there was no dedicated funds for this expense of $153,000. The conversation kind of went to decide as to if we don't pave it this year, what could we see as a potential increased cost due to bituminous prices increasing because of the plant up in the Superior, Wisconsin fire, and a potential chance of about a 10% increase. The recommendation was to table the discussion of the paving of the county fairgrounds until a funding source has been explored, and to also reach out to Mid-Minnesota Hot Mix to clarify whether there will be an increase over the original bid amount of $153,000 in 2019 if the project is delayed.
And everybody got that email? From the Highway Department on the additional cost? And even additional cost of this fall too, the way it sounded, if we were to go proceed with it.
And Mr. Chair, before you go on too, I did call Chad because he made the comment that he was under the impression that we are trying to make them pay for it. And I said, that was never part of the discussion. They just put in as an alternate bid. So it was always that we were going to look for a source of funding. It wasn't we're going to have highway pay.
Yeah, and we obviously didn't
Follow up on that.
proceed to where we needed to be for where the funding should come from.
Well, yeah,
When we discussed CIP last year,
we're
we should have
still
had
at
that
that
discussion.
point, I guess.
Yeah.
So. Well, because, I mean, I'm looking at it and, you know, what, almost 200,000 if we wait until next year. And it did go up this year already by waiting as long as we did, so I don't know. It's just, we'll see where it goes.
All right.
I mean,
Second item on the 23rd meeting was the continuation of the Wright Greater Lake Sylvia Association and the Regional Inspection Station and what the funding sources will be for this program in 2019 and the future of the program based on these funding sources. The Greater Lake Sylvia Association put together a very nice presentation surrounding their revenues and their expenses, and where in discussion ensued based on these presentation as to how accurate the expenses were and how viable the revenue sources are, and whether they could achieve some of these revenue sources. The presentation alluded to the county looking for a contribution from the county in excess of over $70,000, as well as adding additional lakes to shore up an additional $50,000 in revenue. Plus, there was discussion as to the expense side in as far as whether all the expenses that were represented in their presentation, whether the administrative costs were true, and questions also came up regarding why law enforcement expenses were not listed within the Wright Area Inspection Station's expense sheet. There was a presentation by Chief Deputy Hoffman as to how this program maybe should align better with other organizations as far as contracted law enforcement services and what those expenses could look like for them. The group has also, in conjunction with kind of this meeting, began on creating, I don't know what you call it, I'm gonna look for commission, is it a task force we calling it, or?
Yeah, it could be a task force.
Task force to have more in-depth joint discussions on this program and just AIS in general in the county. The recommendation from this meeting was a decision regarding the AIS ordinance revision will be reviewed in later October. There'll be another discussion on this as Greater Lake Sylvia Association would like some more time to see if they can shore up some of the funding shortfalls and to get some clarification on the expense side for this operations. That date has not yet been set at a to be determined date. With that, I make a motion to accept the minutes and the recommendations from the August 23rd Committee of the Whole.
I'll second that with the correction.
Motion by Commissioner Batch, second by Commissioner Houston.
On page 3, under number, Hoffman suggested 2 options. Number 1, the second paragraph. It said that hourly rate is $4 to $5 less, or approximately $76 per hour. It's more than the contractor rate of $74.58, so it should actually be showing up as, either $69.58 or $70.58 instead of $76.
The numbers don't quite add up there.
Yep.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With the Lake Sylvia presentation, which again, I do agree that it was a very good presentation and highlighted a lot of things going on. And I did take great interest in Chief Deputy Hoffman's comments on what it actually cost them, because they were tracking, this has been a pilot program, an educational program. We really did know all the things going into it, all the expense and costs. We felt we had to do something. And you can argue if the DNR is doing their job or not, and it really is immaterial at this point because we don't have the power to make them do anything. But the total cost of what law enforcement burden upon the taxpayers for the 3 lakes was quite substantial. And that with that, you have a hard time telling the people that we're going to put all this money in for only 3 lakes when we have, what, 30 of them in this county?
Well, we have 300 lakes, but 59 public accesses.
Yeah. You know, it's tough to justify that for 3, and the expansion of adding more lakes to it would just make that expense more. And I do agree that the DNR should be doing the exits out of there, and they're not. And I disagreed with that one before, with the DNR said that once we did it, we'd take ownership of this. I disagree with that completely. That we're doing this as called a pilot program. We're trying to bring it more to the limelight for people to understand what's going on and try to get them to think before they do things. I just don't want Lake Coronis in our lakes, you know, and for all of the DNR bucking of Wright County doing this from day one, the only thing that really seemed to get their attention is once it was discovered in a metro lake, then all of a sudden Heidi Wolf and the rest of them all come to light and go, oh my God, we got to do something. Because if I was them, I'd be scared to death of that getting on Lake Minnetonka, because they would not be able to stop it once it's there. So that was my comment about the cost of law enforcement, whether it's right down to the last dollar, but just that range it was in was pretty significant cost to us to do this. You know, and I don't regret doing it, but it is a pilot project, and wasn't meant to be ongoing and done forever.
Commissioner Newsom.
Mr. Chair, thank you. And that's what really the task force is looking at. They're exploring ways to reduce the cost of the law enforcement. You know, they basically are spending about 40 minutes per call, and it's often educational, you know, for educational reasons. They haven't written citations. So we're exploring ways that we don't need to have a sworn deputy out there, perhaps, you know, the park ranger, or, you know, how we need to do this. With the monitors at the different accesses and that kind of thing. But it's a broad discussion, but Annandale PD is in with the discussions, along with Wright County Sheriff and the Greater Lake Sylvia, particularly, Association has been, you know, a key component in these discussions. Well, and just all the area lakes generally. So, yeah, it's an important aspect that we need to really dig into and find solutions for.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to follow up on Commissioner Newsom's comment, it was a learning experience for us. We kind of went in with not really knowing what everything was going to be, but there was a lot of information, a lot of gathering in the last year of what it actually takes to do something like this. So now whatever happens in the future, you don't have to start from there anymore. You have a basis of some general numbers going forward, which is kind of helpful for, say, any other county or any other association wants to do this. They have at least some basic numbers of what it costs to do this, or what you're looking at. Because through the year, we uncovered a lot of things that we didn't realize were part of this process. And it's like, say, it was a learning experience, and I, for one, don't have any regrets doing a pilot project on this, because we had to do something. Doing nothing was not an option.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Batch.
with the interest of other board members, I kind of want to say modify the recommendation. It says in October 2018, after having discussed with that task force group, we're not going to have anything for them to present back. They're going to need to be more into November, December. I don't think it really matters whether we meet in October, November, December. If we say to meet sometime before the end of 2018, would that be sufficient for board members?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Regarding that task force, have you met since, and were the DNR, and have you had some sportsmen that have expressed interest in joining it?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I met with them last Wednesday, and the DNR was there via phone. Heidi, I had to leave a little before they finished, but Annandale PD was there, and we have not brought in the sports people yet. I guess the interest is to have an evening meeting when more people are going to be able to be present, so.
I've reached out to a number of sportsmen that are interested, but right now with the conflicting side of Soil and Water and the DNR wanting to meet during the day, during staff time, and the citizen side wanting to meet in the evenings, and this last meeting, they having them basically sent it out, 6 days in advance, I think is when they got it scheduled. It was pretty last minute notice. We weren't able to accommodate that. We're hopefully this next meeting, we're going to be able to have better representation with more notice.
And certainly some of this that needs to be ironed out with the law enforcement aspect of it particularly. Some of that needs to be ironed out too. I mean, we spent a lot of time just discussing that aspect of it at our last meeting, and the enforcement aspect and writing citations and how all that's going to shake down. So that's maybe something that they're not as interested in as just the overall ordinance itself.
All right.
So with that modification, I'm just going to put end of 2018, if that works for you, Lee.
For the,
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to point out, we always write the minutes to reflect what happened at the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I just want, for your side of it, as far as bringing it forward, don't bring it forward in October.
Certainly.
We won't have anything.
And we
to-
can note in the minutes for this meeting today that we don't anticipate it'll be October. So I don't know that it's necessary that we have a
Okay.
amendment to the recommendation, but we do understand that it'll be sometime in 18.
Okay.
Probably not October.
Perfect.
Great.
Works.
All right, any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Okay.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Coordinator Kelly, Committee of the Whole of August 30th.
The Committee of the Whole met on August 30th with all 5 commissioners and myself in attendance, several other staff present, as well as representatives from the architect firm BKV Group and Construction Manager Corporation Integrity Group. This was a kickoff meeting for the new Government Center building, for lack of a term of what we've called it. I know we've kicked around different titles. The first topic was a debrief of the facilities tour that took place earlier in August. The BKV organized, they toured 2 Health and Human Services buildings in Olmsted County and Winona County. So we had some photographs and building layouts that were reviewed and talked about kind of some of the pros and cons of each of the buildings. It's just an informational item. Then we moved on to identifying goals of the project. They're looking to come back to the county in November with a schematic design. The timeline they're looking at is to complete development phase mid-January with bidding in March of 2019. It's kind of a tight schedule, but they feel it is attainable. We talked a little bit about moving forward, the governance of the group. Schwartzman proposed utilizing, as we did with the Justice Center, an executive committee with 2 commissioners, department heads, myself, and Alan Wilczek, Facility Services. However, it was the recommendation that the full county board or committee of the whole be used for the initial meetings here. So we talked about the next meeting dates. We kind of talked about September 19th, morning meeting. It's recognized not everyone could attend. Schwartzman will rework the remaining meeting schedule into next year. So the recommendation was to schedule a meeting at September 19th at 8 in the morning. BKV Group will update the proposed meeting schedule and email to the participants prior to the meeting. We'll have an update on that as the next item for consideration item. Talked about some strategies for service delivery. They had some real tentative designs of how the building would lay out on the site that's out there. We talked about the geothermal system that's at the current jail LEC, and if it's something we want to pursue. Did not feel that that was something we wanted to do, and got into a discussion about potential retrofit at the existing jail LEC facility. Talked a little bit about main entrance, square footage of the areas, access to the building, briefly about outside agencies, leasing space within that building, and different concepts of things we'd like to see in the building. Again, this was an informational item only. Talked a bit about project priorities, of which customer service was the highest priority for this project. Like the idea of some of the earlier designs that had departments with related services located together. We discussed security briefly, but a main goal was to make it so that the areas the public comes into most frequently would be the most easily accessible. Talked a little bit about some restrooms and designs for those, a little bit about energy efficiency and some facilities operation items as far as surfaces that we've utilized and want to be consistent. Talked a little bit about surveyors department and if they would bring in about a break room or cafeteria. The idea of a daycare area was floated, and some capacity of the boardroom was discussed. The recommendation again was to schedule a committee of the whole on September 19th to meet and further discuss. So those are the minutes and the recommendations. I will note there is a revised time, which is the next item for consideration item for that meeting on the 19th.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the committee of the whole minutes from August 30th.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Hewson. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Schedule Owners Committee of the Whole. So on 9/19 at 8:30 a.m.
Yep. EKB had hoped to move that meeting back a little bit farther to help them get here. Work better with timing.
I'm only because I'm on the radio, I guess if I cancel the radio otherwise, because because we were going till 11:30 at this meeting, and Christine's gone, and basically the amount of high-level stuff, either that or I'd rather reschedule the meeting. If we're gonna basically only have the bare minimum of us here on this item, it was kind of a, I don't know, we're not in that hurry to have to get this thing, to do this, so I don't want to try and put a round peg in a square hole.
Commissioner Hewson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also, we probably all got an invitation to the Excel Energy Breakfast from 7:30 to 9 that morning. So that's another conflict that I don't know if anyone would like to attend that, but that's always been a good informational
They'll be following up on some of their, I'm sure, some of their integrated resource planning process
Yeah.
and where they're at with that as well.
Exactly.
But,
So I thought I might stop in there for 45 minutes before I go to Anoka. So.
I mean, I'm all right, I was all right with it at 8, but, because I was still be able to make the radio, but now we're moving it back. I'm even going to be there for even less than 50% of the meeting, and Christine not making any of it. I don't know.
Well, Mr. Chair, the challenge of these early phase, and we went through this with the Justice Center as well, is always getting schedules coordinated between 5 board members, a handful of staff, and a bunch of architects. They're pitching it as an 8:30 to 11. I don't know if there are certain topics that are of more interest to certain individuals. They've pitched stacking plans, site design, building layout, operational improvements, and refining the plans.
I don't know, just because this is a very, very contentious issue. That's the reason I want to make sure that I'm well involved on every aspect of it, just because it's a building that I want to know what we're putting into it and having the decisions to say what's going to be put into it, because the general public's has elected me to make those decisions, and if I'm not at the table at it, I feel like I'm doing them a disservice, so.
And to be clear, I certainly don't want to deprive you the opportunity. I'm coming at it certainly as a logistical
Yeah.
challenge. We spent a lot of time trying to even find dates that
Yeah.
worked, so.
But we're not in any
Mr.
hurry
Chair,
though either.
Coordinator Kelly, I know that when we met last week and it was a challenge to try to find a date that worked for everyone, but I don't know if they have an opportunity the following week that we could come back and look at that next week,
Well,
have other proposed dates, or?
one of the things is that they're pushing that it would be bid in March, February, March. So the decision should be made, which would slow the whole process down, is do we care that it gets out for bids in 2019 in the spring, or would bidding in the fall of 2019 for building in 2020, would that be sufficient?
If it's gonna be bid without us commissioners being involved in the process, then that's not that, then making that time schedule is not very important, because I think it's more important that we're involved in the process than it is to bid it on a particular time.
Correct.
But, I mean, because if that's the case, then I guess we wait till March of 2020 then, because, I mean,
Or 2040.
40, because I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna,
Exactly, I mean, we need to
2030.
know that this is the right thing to do at the right time.
Yep.
And, we have to be on board with that. And that's exactly it.
well, I don't want, go ahead, Chris, I'm sorry, pardon me for interrupting.
Are you done?
Well, I don't want somebody come back to us and go, why didn't you put this in? Why is this like this? Why is this like this? And well, I wasn't at that meeting, I wasn't at that meeting, I wasn't at that meeting. It was all staff driven. In that, I'm trying to avoid that aspect of it.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for just to remind fellow commissioners that the spring bid time schedule, it's worked out really well in the last two buildings we've done, and those went without everybody having their fingers in every last little detail. We came with committee of whole, got this going, and the difference between our Justice Center and our neighbors to the north is about $200 a square foot, and that's the cost of indecision, and that's what you don't want to do. If you're going to do this, do it. If you want to kill it, kill it. But either way, you make up your mind, and you can't just say, well, I can't do it because I'm scared about the next election or do it. They elected us to make decisions. Okay, are we all involved with everything, every last little detail of everything? No, because we have fellow commissioners that we trust to do things here. Some of these committee of the wholes need to get to go in the process early. Are these going to be the final going forward? We got to make our mind up. Do we want to do this in the spring? And if the 3 votes say, no, we're not going to do it in the March of 2019, then that's the way it goes. If you say wait till fall. But then if you get bids that are a lot higher than you anticipated in fall because you didn't take advantage of the opportunities in the spring, then you get to live with that decision too. Because that's part of the process here is we know we have an issue here. And and Commissioner Burrell says just do nothing, just wait to see what's going on. Mine, I'm more of the, okay, they elected us to make decisions, and let's make the decision, move forward, do something, and just get it done with, because it's not going to go away, it's only going to get worse, and I think we learned that, hopefully, we've learned that from the jail, going from $25 million to $50 million, the cost of waiting, and we already got a brief summary with this, by the cost of waiting a couple of years, that price goes up quite a bit, and that's part of it, and to reiterate, we're not in any bonding conundrum, we're not up against a wall, we're not even there, and these are things that we need to, as the elected officials at this level, need to make sure that we're ensuring the long-range stability of this county. And if this is one of those decisions, that's what we do.
Which is no reason why we can't wait a little bit. We don't need to be pushing so fast.
And
Commissioner Houston?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Potter, we all were very heavily involved with the Justice Center in the beginning. We had a lot of meetings, and then we did trust the committee to make decisions and come back to us. But we've only had a couple of meetings on this so far, and essentially the kind of the kickoff when we were all there, well, now we're moving to the next step. So I think that it's good to have the majority of the board, well, actually, it'd be nice to have all of us here, but certainly it'd be nice to have at least 4 at the meeting when we go into the next step and see what the proposal is. And if you're looking at March of 2019, having this 2 weeks later, I don't think is greatly significant. I mean, I don't know, but it would, I agree. I think with Commissioner Vetch, it's our comfort level, we have to have a comfort level, and we need the public to have a comfort level if we do move forward with this, so.
Commissioner Potter?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I agree with Commissioner Houston, we need to be involved in the front end of this thing, but the public perception of what we just said here is that we can't meet this because we have an XL breakfast in the morning. I don't know how you're gonna get that.
That wasn't my reasoning.
That's got a bad look, is, okay, we're not gonna have this meeting because we have a breakfast going on.
No.
But that's what's gonna be the perception out there. The whole thing is, if it has to wait a week or 2 to get there, it's not gonna be the end of the world? Absolutely not gonna be the end of the world. It'll tighten up a timeline, yes, but it won't be the end of the world. But we need to make it a point where, since it was 4 votes going forward with it, now if you've got cold feet or want to change your mind, now's the time to do it before you get too far down the process.
4 votes.
Mr. Chair?
Well, 3.5.
Commissioner Vetch?
I kind of taking issue to it's not, this isn't about an XL breakfast. This is about the fact that, okay, the time changed to earlier. I was going to be able to make 50% of the meeting. Now I can maybe make 30% of the meeting. And we were already hesitant on scheduling this date because Commissioner Houston couldn't attend. We listed other dates that you had conflict that we worked around. We worked around Charlie's, we worked around Mark's. Now, myself and Commissioner Houston are at odds to this, and we worked around your dates. You're unwilling to work around our dates. And don't compare the Justice Center to this building. The Justice Center has been on the scope for over a decade before we started building it. This one here has been in our scope for less than 2 years, not even. And
Less than a year.
Less than a year. We've had very few discussions. I'm just saying, if we're going to do this, I want to know what we're doing, and I want to be heavily involved. I mean, that's the reason I'm saying that I don't want to do this thing by this March at all costs, even if it means us not being at the table to do it. I'm not willing to do that. I mean, it might be the right decision, but it's not the right decision for us to do it with us not at the table.
Okay, so,
Mr. Chair?
go ahead.
I'm just chime in a little bit here. The reason that we tried to pick the 19th is because BKV is going to be out in the afternoon. We were trying to work around their schedule. Well, it's not going to work this time, so maybe they'll just have to make an extra trip out. It's not like, I don't think going off a week or 2, I mean, maybe we can look at our schedules now. It's just that BKV would have to make a separate trip out. I don't think that's the end of the world.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter?
So if it's got moved to the 25th,
Well, they are coming out on the 26th, according to their schedule here.
Yeah.
From 8:30 to 12:30. What day is the 26th?
That's a
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Wednesday.
So we could easily change it to that. They're scheduled to be here all morning from 8:30 to 12:30.
I can do 1 o'clock on the 26th.
I'm open.
I'm in DC. So, but I trust the rest of you. If I have to miss one of these meetings to get something done, it's not going to be the final decision on anything. And I'm sure that I will get all the information I need and chime in if necessary.
So, do we want to look at possibly the 26th?
If that works for BKV's schedule, that would be,
You guys want to come back with this next, because either way, you're going to, I don't know, do you want to wait till next week to set the date on it? Because wait to find out what
That's just
BKV
it.
I think that's
I
what
guess
we should
that's
do.
my point. BKV can make a special trip out if we can all make it, so it would be nice.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know, I mean, we'll go on the next week still. You can still meet in next Thursday, next Friday. I mean,
No, not next Thursday.
County retreat.
oh, there's County Retreat, yeah, right. The next Friday, the 21st, I don't know what your guys looks like. It means throw out something.
Commissioner Potter, are you going to be gone the 25th too then? Leave the 26th.
26th, it's Wednesday through Friday.
Because the 25th in the after board meeting, we don't have anything scheduled at that point on the 25th either.
And the 25th, correct?
Otherwise, the 21st on a Friday, if that, I mean.
The 21st is good. I mean, if
can
you guys
make
want to
that
go,
work.
keep going, then we're only moving it back through 2 days. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like we're really pushing out for far.
Right.
So I guess at this point that,
A date to be determined.
Yes, and check with, if Coordinator Kelly could check
If he
with,
brings it back on the 18th, we can still set it for the 21st.
correct.
Or the 24th, or 25th, or 26th. I mean, I
Yep, 24th,
appreciate
25th.
the board working with me on this. I'm just not willing to compromise to put pedal to the metal on this.
okay. So at this point, it looks like date is to be determined.
Okay.
Coordinator Kelly, is that right?
Well, that's kind of what I'm hearing. If the 19th's not going to work, we'll have to go back with everybody and try and figure out some times that work.
And it's,
Reach out to BKV and see if any of those dates they are available. 26th, we'll have to do the afternoon because that's committee date, but it's what it is.
okay. And the 27th is pork chop lunch here
Yeah.
for the employees, which Charlie has agreed to serve pork chops the whole time, not just part of the time.
No, 12 to 1.
12:30 to 12:35.
Alrighty, so moving on. Is that enough for that one?
Yeah.
Commissioner Houston, resolution proclaiming September 9th through the 15th as National Assisted Living Week.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, we have Terry Law here from Lake Ridge Manor. She's, has.
I'm the activities director there.
Yep.
Hi.
And she's here to read this proclamation, and I think it's a very important thing to recognize all the people that are working with the assisted living program. And I mean, what a great facility and what wonderful people you have there.
Thank you, Commissioner Husum. So yeah, this week is National Assisted Living Week nationwide, but the point of bringing when I approached Christine about having a proclamation put in place is that to bring to light that the center is there. I think people confuse assisted living with people who have Alzheimer's or end-of-life care, which is, those are separate. Assisted living are people who are as cognitive and mentally intact as we are, but they just suffer, they have physical limitations. And so when I started working there, I was just surprised. This is a very vibrant, very colorful group. We've got a World War II vet, we've got Vietnam vet, we've got some community leaders who are now in their 80s and 90s, and these are people who have grown up here, raised their families here, and now they're up there at the assisted living, and we want people to know that they're there and to recognize that what they've done, their contributions to our community, as well as the contributions that the assisted living facility makes to every community, so that as people require these living type facilities, they don't have to go somewhere else. They can stay within their home where they have been their whole lives. So I wrote Mrs. Husum about this, and she was so kind to go ahead and do the proclamation, and I appreciate that very much. So did you want me to read the whole thing?
Sure.
Oh, okay. Oh, and this is our theme. The National Center for Assisted Living puts together a theme for each year that they have this week. And this one is Capture the Moment. So I am not trying to be silly, but can I give you my camera? Because I have to capture the moment to send back to the national group. So they can see what we're doing.
Of course.
There. All right. The National Assisted Living Week Capture the Moment Proclamation for Wright County, Minnesota. Whereas residents of assisted living communities are active members of the larger community, offering their knowledge, life experience, and involvement, their past contributions continue to be a vital part of Wright County, Minnesota's rich history, and their ongoing participation deepens our county identity. Whereas assisted living is a critical long-term care service for older adults and individuals with disabilities that foster choice, dignity, and independence, assisted living communities are committed to excellence, innovation, and advancement of person-centered care. And whereas in 1995, the National Center for Assisted Living established National Assisted Living Week to honor the contributions of assisted living communities in providing long-term care to America's seniors and individuals with disabilities. Whereas this year's theme of National Assisted Living Week is Capture the Moment, which hopes to inspire assisted living residents to enjoy the present while they celebrate the past. And whereas during this special week, assisted living communities across the country are encouraged to organize activities and events which celebrate the deep connections between the staff members and residents. Now, therefore, we, the Wright County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the week of September 9th to the 15th, 2018 as Assisted Living Week in Buffalo, Minnesota. We urge our citizens to consider volunteering in an assisted living community with friends and loved ones who reside at these communities and learn more about how assisted living services benefit our Minnesota residents.
Thank you.
For sure.
Well, thank you very much.
With that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution proclaiming September 9th through the 15th as National Assisted Living Week.
And I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any other discussions? Thank you for what you do with the
thank you.
assisted living.
And thanks so much for taking up our cause there.
Yeah.
I have an aunt in assisted living, and it's made a big life change for her. Earlier, at this point now, she is in the issue with Alzheimer's and
Oh,
stuff.
sure.
But
Yeah.
earlier,
That happens, but I think too, I just want to say is my background is ministry, and I meet a lot of our elderly congregation members who their complaint is always, I feel so alone, because they're at home, just determined to stay in their homes. But being in assisted living, you have all these people with a lot of commonality in one group, and coming onto Lake Ridge and working there, I feel like I would live here. It's pretty nice, very nice,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
excellent care, yeah. So anyway, thank you so much.
Well,
and
thank
thank
you.
you.
Thanks so much,
Commissioner
Sherry.
Burrell.
Me?
It's a resolution.
I didn't have any.
Do you have any room over there for Commissioner Burrell?
No, it's too late for me. Aye.
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 Resolution carries unanimous. So if you could assist Commissioner Burrell as you,
Well, I'm thinking Chris had something on the agenda, and I'm like, Flaherty and Hood, I don't think I brought that.
okay.
Okay. Next up.
Flagrant Hood proposal, Coordinator Kelly, it's listed with you at this point, and I know Commissioner Betts has been working with this also.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a meeting with Flaherty and Hood back in, I believe it was July. At one point, I'd been asked to kind of reach out and see what different lobbying firms were out there, kind of who are the players. Subsequently, we did have a meeting that was with the Coalition of Utility Cities. That was with Flaherty and Hood, and got talking with them on various items. In July, I had them come out and give a proposal to myself, and it was Vetch and Hevela, and they wanted to respond back to us with a formal proposal, which is what is seen in front of you today. During that meeting, we talked about not only some of the things they'd been working on with the Coalition of Utility Cities, but some of the other issues that are coming in front of the county in the future that we see. So in reaction to that, they had presented the proposal that is to you. If you have questions about that, or if you'd like them to come out and meet with full board, we can certainly pursue that. Was just sitting on my desk for a while and wanted to see where the
I
board
don't think
wanted.
we need, they're a reputable firm, they do good work, I don't know. Derek, you met with them
Yeah,
already?
met with them. They're
were
gonna be able to
comfortable with
service
them?
in a lot of different areas outside of just the,
You thought that'd be good, though?
yes, they'll be excellent for us.
I'm okay with that.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Potter.
Although it's a reputable firm, and everything's fine, this started out as helping us understand the XL Energy nuclear plant, is partnering with the city of Monticello and that to see what's going on. Now it's going into a full-fledged lobbying for all issues with us, and I take exception to that because I've been working with Lockridge, Grindle, Nowen, which we've been paying for them on our transportation stuff for quite a while, for the whole 6 years I've been here. Now, this is not going to look really good for us to go with Flaherty and Hood with this when we've been working with these people for quite a while already. So this is it started out as helping us understand the nuclear. Now it's going to go full-fledged lobbying for everything, which a few years earlier, they said we don't need a lobbyist. And now we're to this point, and I'm not comfortable doing this.
Could the other firm do this as well? I mean, did we look at them?
Well, there's two separate issues here. One's with transportation.
Yeah.
This started out for the Coalition of Minnesota's utility cities that does for the nuclear plant because that's a major impact. I don't have a problem being part of that for the nuclear plant, but being part, all of a sudden we're going to take the people that have been working on behalf of Wright County for a while and tell them, well, thank you for your service, but we're going to go with these other people that have never done nothing for us before. The other thing with Flaherty and Hood, and God bless them for what they do, is you notice that there's no counties here.
Swift, I think was the only one.
No counties. Anyway, so that's, I just would be against, I would be against this.
Well, but I'm saying the other firm, you thought like they would be slighted that we're doing with this. Can they do this lobbying there? Could they do this?
Right, I mean,
Do lobbying on all fronts, but probably not the utility part.
Well, and that's the thing.
With, I see Commissioner Betts shaking his head, but in all due respect, he hasn't had enough experience on this board in lobbying efforts and things to know what different firms can do in the state or federal.
Now the gloves are off.
Well, no, but federal's a whole different animal than state. State, fine, show me federal. Federal's a whole different animal.
Obviously, well, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I will agree, this is 100% issue-based driven is why we are reaching out for this. And it's only because us as a county stand to have substantial losses to revenue to the county, given the current climate on a variety of different fronts regarding the Monticello nuclear plant. This firm here doesn't deal with a lot of counties because it is very niche in what it does. The Coalition of Utility Cities is one of their biggest makeups of this firm. They do deal a lot with bonding. They do not deal a lot with transportations. Our idea of reaching out to Flaherty and Hood was not to use them a lot for transportation for us, if at all. The goal behind it was to use them pretty much exclusively with dealing with our utility aspects of the county and dealing with potential bonding needs for the county that we have had some side discussions on. We stand, so for some insight, $7.1 million annually is what we get for tax payment from the Monticello nuclear plant or Nexel Energy as a county. Depending on what they do, whether they take us to tax court or whether the plant shuts down, there's annually huge substantial losses that we have as a county, and depending on what legislation is passed in St. Paul, the impact to us is huge. And that's the reason we're looking at a $45,000 a year carte blanche contract to use them to help us navigate these bills. These bills are complex, very complex.
So it was strictly just for the nuclear plant, and they do other things, but that wasn't the reason behind it.
That wasn't the motivation. They basically said, you know what, if you want us to help you on other things and answer us questions on other things, absolutely. But the reason we reached out for them was for the energy aspects of it.
So if that's all we do, can they reduce the pricing a little bit?
Well, it's
Because
up
the
to-
amount of time that they have into it, they're gonna charge us hourly, but the cap at it is $45,000. And I will guarantee you we'll probably hit that cap just based on the questions that we have and the complexity of the bill. We'll probably max that out pretty quick.
Okay, so strictly then, we're just dealing with it for the nuclear plant?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I guess it's troubling to me that they're making it so onerous for nuclear power plants to operate anymore. clean energy, it's relatively inexpensive, and the regulations are, getting so that the amount that they're charging and that kind of thing, it would be good to have a voice to, keep this going. I don't know, they're not using fossil fuels, so I guess I look at it that this group is specializing in this issue. I mean, it's separate from another lobbying that has another specialty with the transportation, but this is, as Commissioner Vetch said, we're looking at a potential huge loss in our taxes annually. That's substantial, but that's my comment.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve a agreement to enter an agreement with Flaherty and Hood for lobbying services as deemed necessary for the county.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Eastham. Commissioner Burrell?
I guess I would like to hear more from Mike on this. I mean, because I said, at first I'm thinking, hey, good deal. We don't want to lose this revenue. Derek, have you met with the other firm? I mean, can they do it too, or, I mean,
I haven't met with Lockridge Grindle at all, no. I don't know their background on the involvement with the Coalition of Energy Cities. They're not involved with them at all, but I don't know how involved or in-depth they are in terms of the PUC and energy aspects and tax evaluation. The biggest thing that Flaherty Hood is one of their biggest aspects for their lobbying is tax evaluations, and that's why they kind of fit into that whole energy and tax evaluation.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't disagree with Commissioner Vetch that Flaherty and Hood is intensely involved with the utilities and the nuclear plant, but in the first paragraph of their proposal says, utilizing taxation, transportation, potential bonding projects of interest to the county. Again, I'll also caution that it's the same board that says if it's not budgeted, we're not doing it. This is for 19, so it'd have to be in the budget. I don't recall it being in the preliminary budget.
Professional services.
Professional services, but I don't recall this being spelled out as part of the professional services. My question is, it's going to look awful bad, and this is my point, where I will be voting no on this because it will look bad to people that have been lobbying on our behalf on transportation issues already. So if we've already got a firm on retainer to go that says right in here that also transportation issues,
So
we have issues.
if we had Flaherty and Hood redo their letter with the transportation removed, would you feel more comfortable with it then?
That was the other point I want to get to. When we first had talks, it was about the nuclear plant, period. That was it. It wasn't about anything else. Now all of a sudden it's morphed into everything. And that's where my concern is now it's morphed into everything and comes out of the blue, and it was just to help us understand and be at the table for the nuclear plant. Now all of a sudden, boom, it's blown up into this.
and that's what, Mike, I'm glad you pointed that out, because when this came up, I'm thinking it is just the nuclear thing, and maybe they do need to narrow their focus, Derek, because we have another firm we're kind of doubling up, and, I don't need to be paying somebody $100, $100 plus an hour to do the same thing that we already have a firm doing.
It's not going to change the price. You can change the wording all day long, but it's not going to change the price. At the end of the day, it's going to be the same.
But it changes what they might do, because they might,
And that's fine.
if this firm is sending us a bill for transportation lobbying because they were doing some for somebody else already and just added our name to the bill, that's not, I wouldn't like that.
And I don't think Flaherty and Hill have a problem with narrowing their scope down. I wouldn't do it with the anticipation of the price changing, because ultimately, they know, and I think basically, with our talks the expectation was that we were going to be pretty much most of our work with them was going to be regarding the nuclear plant and some bonding, and that was about the extent of it.
I'm rethinking my initial thought here, but maybe it's not a bad idea to have them come out then. I was thinking it would save a step, but go ahead.
Commissioner Potter?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just, to quick jump into this, if you're going to hire a lobbying firm that is trying to be everything, shouldn't you at least invite a few of them in and see what they can offer us?
Okay, we have one of those legal beagles
Yeah.
at the podium that will solve our problems here right now?
Well, Mr. Chair, members of the board, interesting discussion you're having here, and I'm glad you're having it. I just wanted to point out, as an attorney and looking at this kind of as a retainer agreement, I think what Flaherty and Hood was trying to do here was to try to make it more expansive in the event in the future you want to expand the scope of that. You're the client. You get to set the direction and what they're doing here at the point right now. If you just want it to be dealing with the nuclear plant, dealing with taxing issues, then your direction to them is what it is. But in the future, if you were to expand it, if you narrow the scope of the retainer agreement, then you potentially have to enter into a new retainer agreement. So I think the way that they drafted it, they're trying to be over-encompassing with the expectation that you would narrow it down. So, yeah, just my, I guess, legal perspective on it. So if you want to narrow it down, you can, but if you want to expand into the future, you'd probably have to go through this process again.
Okay, so do we want to modify our motions? Do we want to remove the motions? Do we want to run the motions? And
I don't see any necessary need to modify it because, as we just stated, I mean, we're controlling it.
Right.
We control the discussion.
They're both coming up.
I mean,
oh man, how can something so simple get so complicated?
And you wanted to get out of here by 10.
Mr. Potter?
I make a motion to table this discussion for another week to get more information.
Greg, help me out.
That's why.
We already have a motion on the table. We have a motion on the
in
floor.
a second.
You can table the motion.
So the table will, if I have a second.
Table would override if you get a second.
Okay. Do I have a second for tabling the motion?
I'm not sure which way I want to go at it. Mike, hey, can you hang on for a second on it till see what they have to say?
Well, I put it out there. If you want to say yes or no, it's up to you.
I'm going to hold off for a second. I'll see what Greg has to say. So.
I don't know what the question is in the future here. Let's just ask.
Well, no, Mike just wanted to table the whole thing until next week, and which, I don't think it would be the end of the world either,
I can do my 2 cents worth,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. Just, Mike had raised the question, should we be getting other proposals for this type of thing? And I just wanted to remind the board that anytime you're hiring professional services, you can pick someone for their area of expertise,
Exactly.
kind of, and you don't really need to get more than one proposal, so.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I agree. I don't think that this is conflicting. I don't think this has anything to do with Lockridge and Grindle. I mean, I don't, because they are specialists, and Flaherty and Hood are specialists in this area. So that's I guess, you want to go after who's, really good in different areas to lobby for you. So I don't personally see a conflict, but we're not going to have them do transportation things. I mean, that's something that we need to determine.
But then
correct?
Then maybe, and I think what that might help Mike along is if we have that in our motion, do we still have to deal with Mike's motion? Or
Yes, you do. They have to deal with that first.
And Mr. Chair,
Well, it's actually, you shouldn't have discussion
Well,
until you get
the
a
chair has to
second or
call for
not.
it 3 times. If nobody seconds it, it dies for lack of second.
Right, okay.
Mr.
All right, do I
Chair,
have a motion regarding the tabling?
Mr. Chair,
Motion for regarding the tabling? Motion dies for a second. Commissioner Batch?
There you go.
So Commissioner Potter, I mean, I'm not trying to be any disrespect to Lockridge Grindle, and I mean, I had no other options as far as when myself and Mr. Hevola and Kelly were looking to get information on this, and the only one that has the information on this was Flaherty and Hood. Like I said, this was not to step on any toes, and that, I'm just asking for you to help us be able to get the information.
Nuclear plant, yes, I
Yeah.
agree with you, Mr. Chair, sorry for interrupting there. But Lockridge Grindle, who's been working with us, Corridors of Commerce and that, and I'm going to DC, and they are the lobbyists, we're nearing $100 million that firm has worked on our behalf to help us secure money to help Wright County go forward. To me, the lawyers, they are a bunch of sharks at each other all the time, and they know it, they'll admit it. The things, it's got a bad look when it says will be, utilizing taxation, transportation, potential bonding. It's got a bad look all the way around.
Okay, so
Sure, could I have the motion read back that's on the table now?
Right,
it's just to accept,
be limited.
It's a separate agreement with,
Accept the agreement.
accept the agreement with
So-
no
so
limitations
then-
on it.
So, and I'll make an amendment to that motion that they only be retained for the purposes of the Monticello nuclear power.
So you don't want to be even for bonding?
Well,
No,
remove the transportation
because we
part
already
of it.
have a company that can do the bonding, right?
We don't, as a county as a whole, we aren't.
I'm gonna, Mike, would you want them on for bonding too, or not? No. Okay. My motion is just for the Monticello nuclear power plant.
I think we're missing a big vote here.
If the
And probably
motion maker
properly
doesn't-
It's an amendment to
It's an
the,
amendment. If the motion maker doesn't agree to it, it doesn't go forward.
I just think
Well,
we're
no,
missing,
that's not
we're
true.
narrow, we're hampering ourselves, and
Gotta have a second.
I'm trying to understand here,
needs a
Lee, we
second?
are not as a county in a contract with Lockridge Grindle. The transportation alliances and some of their involvements are with Lockridge Grindle, but us as a county, we use them through other entities that we belong to.
That's
but why do they need to be on for
Why,
bonding? when
why
we
do they,
already
why
have
do they look at
another
it as us as an enemy? I mean, that's where I don't see how they can view us as,
Greg, what are my options here to move this on?
Mr. Chair, do you have a motion and a second on the
Yes.
floor to amend?
Yes, I do.
All right. So right now, the
Did-
discussion
did
is whether or not
Is there
to,
a second for the amendment?
Mr. Chair, I'll call the question.
on the
There's a-
motion to amend.
There was a motion to amend, but there was no second.
Correct.
Is there a second for the motion to amend?
Well,
Nothing?
Mr. Chair, I think the amendment, if it wasn't quite so narrow, that, I would remove the transportation part of it.
I'll go
I
with
mean, I would, if, if
But
you,
you still want to use them for bonding even
Well,
though
I
we
mean,
have
we
another
don't-
firm?
we don't know yet.
we,
Why narrow it for,
right.
you don't know?
We don't
But
have
then you know what,
anybody.
if we wanted to use them for bonding later, we can come back and do another.
Yeah, but then you gotta rechange a contract, and then the dollar amount could be way different. And-
All right, the motion has been called.
Okay.
All those in favor of the
Will you
motion?
please
That's for-
reiterate
The
exactly?
amendment, my amendment died.
The
The amendment died, it says the original, with the contract the way it is right now, with it, but we still control what they do for us. So that it doesn't mean anything as far as,
Right.
if we don't want to use them for transportation,
We're
don't
not
use them for
planning, we're not
transportation.
planning to use them for transportation.
Exactly.
Okay, which again, I would have thought the easiest thing to do would have the letter redone. But
Oh, well.
we're calling the
Mr. Chair,
motion, we're calling the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
So,
It
Motion fails 3-2.
3-2.
And this can be brought back for,
Not till next session, next year.
not till next year?
Well, generally, when something dies, it can't come back until the new board is
There you
seated.
Unless it comes back
Come back
by
separately.
somebody that voted against it.
So, yeah, or you alter the contract and something.
Yes, if we alter the contract. Okay,
Whatever, you know?
all right, so it can come back with some changes. All right. Advisory Committee, Advisory Board updates. Just a reminder that we have a public hearing at 10:30 for County District 22. Commissioner Burrell, do you have anything?
As far as advisory things, just met with Soil Water last night. We did at that point pass the One Watershed, One Plan. I got to get these terms right, but the governance document, and then also adopted the plan, so that will be coming before the board, I suspect, pretty soon too. So that's it.
I went out to Camp Courage. The True Friends had their open house on Sunday, and they were kind of highlighting, they had remodeled the dining room and art center and different things, and I spent some time up with the equestrian area where they are doing the horse therapy for people, and I think it's amazing how they figured out that, the correlation between certain physical positions and the ability to have people with like cerebral palsy and things be able to get on a horse and ride perfectly, and actually helps change some of their brain chemistry and some of the, it stimulates, different things in the brain, which I've read about it in the past, but it's mind-boggling to me.
Horse therapy
that
does
they're-
work.
Yeah, and, I mean, they have just a wonderful program up there for that, and
Is that called
also-
horse sense?
Pardon?
Horse therapy.
Horse therapy.
Oh, horse sense.
All right.
Okay, horse therapy.
And the Legion had their 100-year anniversary, the kickoff at the Legion Club on Saturday, and so that was, or excuse me, yeah, Saturday. So that was well-attended. They had a lot of activities, and beginning, you know, because the American Legion basically started in Minneapolis and in 1919. So, yeah, that was, I think more activities to come celebrating that. That's about it.
Okay. In the interest of time, I just have one thing I want to say. We took a tour of a number of parks last night with the Parks Committee. Went to a little park, Wright County Park called Mud Lake Community, or County Park.
Yep.
I'd never been there before. It's not a very big park. Very small, very peaceful. Unfortunately, there was somebody that dropped off a bunch of picture tubes in the park.
A bunch of what?
Picture tubes, televisions.
Really?
They took all the electronic stuff and just threw the tubes out.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
That's a
So
shame.
it is, it's terrible, but, other than that, it's a really neat park, there's a new bridge there, no swim beach, but, I guess it's got a really good fishing
Yeah,
for,
good fishing.
crappies, but, if you wanna go on a very quiet picnic, that's the place to go. Go ahead, Commissioner Batch.
Real quick, last week on Thursday, we had our EMAC, PHEP, Emergency Public Health meeting. It was our farewell meeting to Steve Berg. That would be the last time he'll be attending that joint commission. At least in his current role, they're going to maybe twist his arm. We can maybe get him on a civilian capacity, who knows? But at this point, that was about all we had for that, was just kind of more of a...
Steve doesn't look like he's old enough to retire, does he?
No.
They reminisced about a lot of good stories from back in the day, so it was a very fun and very educational event, so.
Commissioner Potter?
I have nothing for this week, Mr. Chair.
All right. Anything before the board? I'm sorry. Coordinator Cully, do you have anything that you need to add?
Just update that we spent last week with the folks from Infotech doing the ERP
yeah.
scoping for building an RFP. So that was last week's for a lot of us. That's all I have.
Sounds like there's a good plan going forward with that.
All right.
All right, we are adjourned at 10:22.